The Chronicles of Aetheria. The Awakening of the Arcane. The land of Aetheria was a place where myths were woven into the very fabric of existence. Towering mountains pierced the heavens, rivers glowed faintly with traces of starlight, and forests whispered secrets older than time itself. It was a realm where kingdoms rose and fell, where dynasties ruled with iron and silk, and where the true power that shaped the world lay not in armies, but in magic. Magic was the heartbeat of Aetheria. Vast, untamed, and alive. It flowed like invisible rivers beneath the earth, sang in the winds, and burned in the hearts of chosen mortals called arcanists. To wield it was both a gift and a curse, for the arcane obeyed no law but its own, demanding sacrifice from those who sought to master it. At the dawn of the Age of Shadows, when kingdoms quarreled and dynasties sharpened daggers behind golden thrones, a prophecy was spoken in hushed voices. It told of a child born beneath a sky of fire, one who would command the arcane in ways unseen for 1,000 years. That child, it was said, would either unite Aetheria or cast it into eternal night. And so begins the tale of Elara Vale, a girl born in a village forgotten by kings, yet destined to shake the foundations of empires. Elara's first memory was of light. Not the soft glow of a candle, nor the warmth of the hearth, but blinding, searing brilliance that seemed to pulse within her veins. She was only 5 when it first happened. She had been running through the woods after a storm, when lightning struck a tree before her. Instead of fear, she felt the surge of power rush through her body, and the tree, burning, cracking, ready to fall, simply froze in place. The flames turned into harmless sparks that floated into the sky like fireflies. The villagers whispered. Some said she was blessed by the gods, others cursed. Her parents, humble farmers, feared what their daughter had awakened. For in Aetheria, magic was both revered and hunted. Years passed, and Elara grew into a young woman whose presence carried both wonder and unease. Her emerald eyes seemed to shimmer when she was angry, and her laughter could make flowers bloom out of season. Yet she was restless. She dreamed of cities she had never seen, of towers crowned in crystal, of voices calling her to a destiny beyond her quiet life. Her life changed the day the king's inquisitors came. Clad in black steel, bearing the emblem of the crimson sun, they descended upon her village like carrion birds. They sought witch blood, children born with uncontrollable magic, whom the crown feared would grow into rivals to the throne. When they saw Elara calm a raging horse with a mere gesture, their leader, Inquisitor Malric, knew she was what they had been sent for. Her parents begged for mercy. Elara, trembling yet defiant, stood before the soldiers as the villagers watched in silence. Malric raised his blade, declaring her a danger to the realm. But before steel could meet flesh, the earth itself rose to shield her. Stones lifted from the ground, spiraling in the air, forming a barrier between the girl and death. The villagers gasped. Malric's eyes widened with both fear and greed. "She is the one," he whispered. And from that moment, Elara's life as a simple farmer's daughter ended. She was taken from her home, carried in chains toward the capital city of Vealoria, where fate and prophecy awaited her. Meanwhile, in the golden halls of Vealoria's palace, intrigue brewed. The ruling dynasty, the House of Thalorian, had held power for centuries, claiming divine right through their control of magic-wielding bloodlines. But whispers of rebellion stirred in the shadows. Rival lords, exiled sorcerers, and secret cults plotted to tear the realm apart. For in the heart of the capital lay the greatest secret of all, the Obsidian Codex, an ancient tome said to contain the origin of magic itself. Only the chosen could unlock its pages, and many believed Elara was destined to try. Thus began the saga, a girl of forgotten birth, bound to a prophecy older than kings, caught in the web of dynasties, betrayal, and the eternal struggle between light and shadow. The winds of Aetheria shifted, and the age of magic had truly begun. The City of Veils. The road to Vealoria, capital of the Thalorian dynasty, was long and unforgiving. Elara traveled in an iron-bound wagon, flanked by inquisitors whose eyes never left her. She could hear their whispered conversations at night, the way they spoke of her not as a girl, but as a weapon, something to be delivered, contained, or exploited. Her hands were shackled in runic chains, etched with crimson sigils that burned against her skin. The runes were designed to suppress magic, binding her arcane essence like a bird trapped in a cage. Yet even in bondage, She felt the pulse of power within her veins. Quiet, but waiting. The capital revealed itself like a dream painted in gold and shadow. Aetheria was unlike anything Alara had ever imagined. Spires rose like spears into the heavens, their tips shimmering with enchanted crystals that caught the light of the setting sun. Streets teemed with merchants, beggars, nobles, and hidden sorcerers cloaked in secrecy. The air was heavy with incense, smoke, and ambition. They called it the City of Veils, for beneath its beauty lay 1,000 masks, each hiding daggers of betrayal. As the wagon passed through the Gate of Dawn, citizens gathered to see the captured witchblood. Rumors of her power had already preceded her. Some spat and cursed, calling her an abomination. Others stared with awe, whispering that she might be the promised heir of prophecy. Children reached out their hands, as if hoping to touch a piece of the legend. Ilara's emerald eyes scanned the crowd. She felt their fear, their wonder, their hatred. And deep within, a thought took root. They see me as more than I am. Perhaps one day, I must become what they believe. The wagon clattered through marble streets until it reached the Obsidian Keep, the fortress palace of the Thalorian kings. Black stone walls loomed, etched with ancient wards glowing faintly like embers. Above them, the banners of the dynasty rippled in the wind, a golden phoenix rising from fire. Inside, Ilara was brought before the High Regent Alaric Thalorian, uncle to the boy king who ruled in name but not in truth. Alaric was a man carved of shadows and steel, tall, silver-haired, with eyes as cold as winter. His voice was velvet, but every word carried the weight of command. "So," he said, circling her like a hawk, "the storm-born child, the one who halts fire and bends stone. Do you know what you are?" Ilara lifted her chin, though fear gnawed at her heart. "I am myself, nothing more." Alaric smiled thinly. "No, you are possibility, and possibility is dangerous." That night, she was locked in the Hall of Silence, a chamber built to break sorcerers. No windows, no sound, only the hum of suppressive wards. Yet as she sat in darkness, a whisper came, not from outside, but from within her soul. "Ilara." The voice was ancient, melodic, neither male nor female. She pressed her hands to the cold stone floor, trembling. "You are not their prisoner. You are the heir of what was lost. The Codex waits. Seek it before they shackle the world." The vision came swiftly, a black tome bound in iron, its pages alive with shifting runes. The Obsidian Codex. She saw it hidden beneath the palace, guarded by shadows older than kingdoms. When the vision faded, she gasped for breath, her body shaking with exhaustion. Yet fire lit her heart. She understood now. She was bound not only by chains of steel, but by chains of destiny. Days turned into weeks. Ilara was paraded through court like a curiosity, nobles whispering behind jeweled fans. Some feared her, others plotted to use her. In the shadows, secret alliances formed. Lord Kaelin Duskrin, master of spies, who believed Ilara could be a weapon to topple the Thalorian throne. Lady Seraphine Thalorian, cousin to the regent, whose beauty concealed an ambition sharp as a blade. The Order of the Shattered Star, an underground cult who worshipped magic itself as a living god. Each watched Ilara, each schemed to claim her fate. But it was not only mortals who observed. In the unseen corners of Aetheria, where shadows whispered and time bent strangely, darker forces stirred. Creatures forgotten by history, remnants of the first age of magic, began to awaken, sensing the rise of the storm-born girl. One evening, as rain lashed the palace windows, Ilara was brought to the Hall of Flames for an audience. Dozens of nobles filled the chamber, their eyes glittering with suspicion. High Regent Alaric stood before the throne, his hand resting on the pommel of a blade rumored to be forged from dragonbone. He commanded her to demonstrate her power. "Show us why the world fears you, child," he said, his voice echoing against the walls. Ilara's hands trembled as the runic chains were removed. The air thickened, humming with expectation. She could feel magic rising around her, drawn like moths to flame. She closed her eyes. She thought of her Om, of the villagers, of her parents' faces. She thought of fire, stone, and storm. When she opened her eyes, emerald light blazed within them. The hall shook as shards of crystal rose from the floor, spinning in the air like stars caught in orbit. Flames burst into being, dancing without smoke. A storm wind howled through the chamber, though no door was open. The nobles gasped. Some fell to their knees. But Alaric only smiled. "Yes," he whispered. "The prophecy lives." And in that moment, Aetheria knew her life was no longer her own. She was a pawn on the board of empires, a weapon every hand sought to control. But deep in her heart, she swore, "I will not be their pawn. I will be the storm, the shadows of power." Nights in Aetheria carried whispers. The palace, though adorned with marble and gold, was a hive of secrets. Behind every tapestry lurked an ear, and every shadow concealed a dagger. Aetheria quickly learned that survival in the Obsidian Keep was not only about enduring chains, but about navigating eyes, the gazes of nobles, spies, and servants alike. She had become the center of a storm she barely understood, and yet the storm followed her wherever she walked. One evening, as the moon bled silver over the palace, a stranger appeared in her chamber. No door had opened, no guard had stirred, yet there he stood, Lord Kaelin Duscrin, the infamous master of spies. Tall and lean, clad in obsidian silk, his eyes glimmered like knives in the dark. "You don't belong to them," he said quietly, his voice soft as smoke. "You belong to no one. That makes you dangerous and valuable." Aetheria rose from the stone cot, her chains clinking softly. "If you're here to bargain, I have nothing to offer." Kaelin's smile was sharp. "On the contrary, you have everything. Power, legacy, prophecy. You only need guidance, allies. I can provide that. But in return, you must help me shatter the throne that seeks to cage you." Her heart thundered. To defy the regent so openly was madness. And yet, there was truth in his words. If she remained a prisoner, she would never touch her destiny. "Think on it," Kaelin whispered, before melting back into the shadows, leaving only the faint scent of ash and steel. Days later, Aetheria encountered another figure who would test her resolve. Lady Seraphine Thalorian, cousin to the regent, draped in crimson velvet. Her beauty was blinding, her charm intoxicating, but her eyes were cold, calculating. "You could be queen, you know," Seraphine murmured, trailing a jeweled finger along the bars of Aetheria's cell. "This realm has no love for Alaric. The people hunger for something new, something divine. You could be that. And I, your loyal hand." Aetheria studied her carefully. Seraphine's words dripped with ambition. Was she offering alliance, or a gilded chain in place of iron? Still, Aetheria listened. She knew now that every whispered offer, every treacherous pact, was a piece of the game she was forced to play. Meanwhile, the whispers within her soul grew louder. The unseen voice spoke again, clearer this time. "The Codex waits beneath the palace. Its words will unbind you, or destroy you. Seek it before Alaric does, for he too hunts its power." The thought of the Obsidian Codex haunted her waking hours. At night, she dreamed of a chamber drowned in shadows, guarded by twisted beings with hollow eyes. She dreamed of her own hands opening the tome, runes shifting like living flame. And always, in the dream, a choice, to wield its power, or to be consumed by it. One storm-filled night, the palace itself seemed to conspire with her fate. Thunder rolled across the skies, shaking the windows. Guards abandoned posts to shelter from the rain. And in that brief window, Kaelin's spies slipped into her cell. "Aetheria," one whispered, pressing a dagger into her palm. "The time is now. The Codex calls." Chains shattered, doors opened. For the first time since her capture, freedom beckoned. Her heart raced as she followed them through hidden corridors beneath the palace. Torches flickered on ancient walls carved with forgotten runes. The air grew colder with every step, thick with the weight of centuries. At last, they reached a door of black stone, veined with veins of crimson light. Symbols writhed upon its surface like serpents. It pulsed, alive, waiting. "The Codex is beyond," the spy whispered. Aetheria pressed her hand to the stone. The wards burned against her skin, yet parted like water at her touch. The door groaned open, revealing a vast chamber cloaked in shadows. And there it was, the Obsidian Codex, a tome bound in chains, resting upon an altar of bone and crystal. Its pages whispered like voices carried on the wind. Elara stepped forward, the weight of prophecy pressing down upon her. She knew that once she touched it, there would be no return. From behind her, Kaelin's voice echoed in the dark. Choose wisely, Stormborn, for that book can crown you or kill you. And as her fingers reached for the codex, the shadows stirred, ancient guardians awakening, their hollow eyes burning with hunger. The awakening of the codex. The chamber trembled as Elara drew closer to the altar. Shadows slithered along the walls like serpents, stretching and twisting into the forms of the ancient guardians. They were tall, faceless wraiths clad in tattered robes of night, their hollow eyes glowing with embers of forgotten fire. The codex pulsed with life, its chains rattling like a beast straining against its bonds. Its whispers grew louder, filling her mind with fragments of prophecy. Stormborn, unbroken, crowned in fire, destroyer, savior, queen. Kaelin stood at the edge of the chamber, watching with an intensity that bordered on obsession. His voice cut through the shadows. Take it, Elara. Claim what was stolen from you. That book will give you the power to burn kingdoms or build empires. With me at your side, you could rule all Aetheria. But before she could answer, another voice slithered into the chamber, sharp, commanding. Lady Seraphine appeared in a swirl of crimson velvet, her jeweled dagger glinting in the torchlight. Behind her marched her private guard, faces hidden by masks of iron. You fool, Kaelin, she hissed. Did you think you alone could mold her destiny? The codex belongs to me. With it, I will topple Alaric and wear the crown. And Elara, she turned her piercing eyes upon the girl, you will kneel before me or you will die here. Elara's heart pounded. Two serpents now coiled around her. Kaelin, the Shadow Master, whispering of revolution. Seraphine, the ambitious noble, promising glory draped in chains. And beneath it all, the codex itself, calling to her with a hunger that was not entirely her own. The guardians stirred, their voices like grinding stone. One blood shall bind, one blood shall break. Choose, Stormborn, for the tome shall answer only truth. Elara closed her eyes, drawing a breath deep into her lungs. She remembered her father's teachings, his belief that she was born not to follow, but to lead. She remembered her mother's voice in the storm, whispering of destiny. When her eyes snapped open, they blazed with determination. No more chains, she said, her voice steady. Not yours, Seraphine. Not yours, Kaelin. And not even yours, Codex. If I am to rule, I will rule as myself. She placed her hand upon the codex. The world exploded. Light and shadow surged through her body, searing her veins with molten fire. Her chains disintegrated in a flash of lightning. The guardians shrieked, their forms unraveling into ash. The codex's pages burst open, its runes swirling around her like a storm of burning stars. Visions flooded her mind, futures where she ruled as Empress of Flame, others where she brought only ruin and death. She saw Alaric's crown shattering, Seraphine's dagger sinking into Kaelin's heart, cities rising and falling in endless cycles. The codex did not give answers. It gave possibility, and the choice was hers. When the storm subsided, Elara stood tall, cloaked in a mantle of shimmering light and shadow. The codex floated beside her, unbound, its chains shattered. She was no longer prisoner, no longer pawn. She was something greater. Kaelin fell to his knees, awe and fear warring in his eyes. Stormborn, you are more than prophecy. You are destiny itself. Seraphine, pale and trembling, raised her dagger but could not strike. The air around Elara crackled with power, bending even steel to her will. No, Elara said softly, her voice carrying like thunder. I am not destiny. I am choice, and my reign begins tonight. With a wave of her hand, the codex's power surged outward, casting Kaelin and Seraphine into the shadows. Whether she destroyed them or spared them, only Elara would know, for the storm swallowed their screams. When dawn broke over Vealoria, the regent's throne stood empty. The banners of Alaric had fallen. The city awoke to whispers of a new power rising from the depths of the Obsidian Keep. At its heart stood Alara, stormborn, flame-crowned, her eyes lit with the fire of the Codex. Neither tyrant nor savior, but something new, a queen who had chosen her own path, forged not by prophecy, but by will. And so began the true reign of the Storm Empress, whose name would echo through the ages, feared and worshipped in equal measure. The Storm Empress. Years passed, then decades, yet the memory of the night Alara touched the Codex never faded from the hearts of those who lived through it. The world changed. The fall of Regent Alaric sent shockwaves through every throne and council. Kingdoms that once plotted against Aetheria bent their knee, not out of loyalty, but out of awe and fear. For where Alaric had ruled through politics and steel, Alara ruled through something far greater, the storm itself. The Codex, once bound and silent, now moved as her companion. It followed her like a shadow, whispering endless truths and possibilities. But unlike those before her, Alara did not let its voice consume her. She listened, yes, but she chose her own path. And that choice made her untouchable. The rise of the Storm Empire. They called her Storm Empress. She united the fractured houses of Aetheria not through bloodshed alone, but through vision. Roads were rebuilt, trade revived, the hungry fed. Cities rose, powered by arcane forges she commanded with her stormborn gifts. Where once there had been decay and despair, now there was progress. But her reign was not without shadows. Those who defied her, rival nobles, fanatical priests, would-be assassins, found themselves struck down by storms that came without warning, by shadows that moved through corridors unseen. Some whispered that Kalen, the fallen spymaster, still walked at her side, his loyalty sealed by chains of magic. Others claimed Lady Seraphine had become her advisor, her ambition bound in service rather than rebellion. Truth and legend blurred, for those who lived in Alara's time dared not ask too many questions. They only bowed. The legacy of the Codex. Yet the greatest mystery of her reign was not her rule, but the Codex. It never left her. It hovered at her side in council chambers, glowed above her throne like a second crown, whispered in her ear during the silences of the night. Scholars begged to study it, priests prayed before it, sorcerers swore oaths to unravel its secrets. But Alara allowed no hand to touch it. Knowledge without choice is a cage, she told them. The Codex is no master, no tool. It is a mirror, and the only truth worth knowing is the one we forge ourselves. Those words were carved into marble above the gates of her palace. The final storm. In the twilight of her life, when her hair turned silver and her eyes still burned like lightning, Alara ascended the highest tower of Aetheria. The city watched as the sky split open, storms rolling across the heavens with a fury unseen since the age of gods. The Empress stood at the edge, the Codex open beside her, its pages glowing with fire and shadow. "I was born of the storm," she said to her people below, "and to the storm I shall return. My reign was not prophecy, it was choice. Let my legacy be this, that no destiny is unbreakable." And with that, she stepped into the tempest. The Codex shattered into 1,000 sparks, scattering across the world. Some claimed the sparks fell as stars. Others whispered they buried themselves in the earth, waiting for a new hand, a new will, to awaken them. Alara was never seen again. The eternal legend. Centuries later, bards still sang of her. To some, she was a tyrant who ruled with fear. To others, she was the greatest sovereign who ever lived, a queen who gave power back to the people. But to all, she was eternal, the Storm Empress, the woman who defied prophecy, who shattered chains, and who made the world tremble not because of fate, but because of her choice. And so her story lived on, carved into history, whispered in prophecy, and remembered in the rumble of every storm.